The rain-slicked streets of Seattle gleamed under the sodium glow of streetlights. But my heart was a storm no umbrella could shield. I stood outside the dive bar, neon signs buzzing like my thoughts, watching him through the fogged-up window. Elliot, my best friend, my anchor, the one person I'd never dared to love out loud. Tonight, though, something had shifted, and the weight of it threatened to pull me under. Elliot leaned against the bar, his dark hair falling into his eyes as he laughed with a stranger, his smile a knife twisting in my chest. I'd known him since we were kids, two misfits in a small Oregon town, bonded by late-night talks and shared secrets. Back then, we were just Caleb and Elliot, inseparable, our lives tangled like the roots of the oak tree we'd carved our initials into. But now, at 25, I was drowning in feelings I'd buried for years. Feelings I'd convinced myself were wrong because he was my brother not by blood, but by something deeper, something I couldn't name until it started breaking me. I pushed through the bar's heavy door, the scent of stale beer and cedar hitting me as I made my way to him. The stranger, a guy with a leather jacket and a sly grin, was too close, his hand brushing Elliot's arm. My stomach churned. Caleb. Elliot's voice cut through the noise, his green eyes lighting up as he spotted me. He waved me over, oblivious to the storm raging inside me. Meet Ryan. He's new in town. Ryan nodded, his gaze lingering on Elliot a little too long. I forced a smile, my jaw tight. Hey, I muttered, sliding onto the stool beside Elliot. His warmth radiated, his shoulder brushing mine, and I hated how it made my pulse race. We'd always been close to sleepovers, road trips, nights spent sprawled on his couch watching bad horror movies, but lately, every touch felt like a spark I couldn't ignore. You okay, man? Elliot asked, his brow furrowing. He always knew when something was off, like he could see straight through me. I shrugged, sipping my beer, trying to drown the truth clawing its way up my throat. I wanted to tell him. I wanted to grab him, pull him close, and confess that every time he smiled, it felt like the world made sense. But fear glued my lips shut, fear of losing him, of ruining the only family I'd ever had. The night blurred on, Ryan's laughter grating as he monopolized Elliot's attention. I watched them, my chest tight, until Elliot's hand landed on my knee under the bar, grounding me. You're quiet tonight, he said softly, his thumb brushing my jeans. My breath hitched. It was nothing new. Elliot was tactile, always had been, but tonight, it felt like a lifeline and a landmine all at once. I'm fine, I lied, my voice rough. He didn't buy it, but he didn't push, just squeezed my knee before turning back to Ryan. I hated myself for staying silent, for letting the moment slip. But what was I supposed to say? That I was in love with him. That every time he called me his brother, it felt like a punch. That I'd spent years convincing myself this was just friendship, only to realize it was so much more. The bar closed at 2 a.m., and Ryan finally left, leaving Elliot and me alone on the rain-soaked sidewalk. The city was quiet, the air heavy with mist. You didn't like him, did you? Elliot asked, nudging my shoulder as we walked toward his apartment. His voice was light, but his eyes searched mine, like he was trying to unravel me. He's fine, I said, shoving my hands into my pockets. Just not my type. Elliot laughed, the sound warm and familiar, cutting through the damp night. Since when do you have a type, Caleb? He slung an arm around my shoulders, pulling me close as we walked. My heart stuttered, and I let myself lean into him, just for a moment, pretending it was enough. His apartment was a few blocks away, a cozy loft in Capitol Hill with mismatched furniture and walls covered in Polaroids from our adventures. We'd crashed there countless times, but tonight felt different. He kicked off his shoes, grabbed 2 beers from the fridge, and flopped onto the couch, patting the spot beside him. Come here, tell me what's eating you. I sat, the cushion dipping under our weight, our knees brushing. The words were there, heavy on my tongue, but I couldn't spit them out. Instead, I took a long pull from my beer, staring at the Polaroid on the coffee tablius at 18. Arms around each other, grinning like we'd conquered the world. You ever think about how things change? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Elliot tilted his head, his curls catching the lamplight. What do you mean? Like, us. How we used to be kids. And now, I trailed off, my throat tight. He watched me, his gaze soft but intense, like he was waiting for something I wasn't ready to give. Now we're still us, he said, his voice steady. You're still my family. Caleb. Always will be. That word family hit like a brick. I wanted to scream that he was more than that he was everything. But instead, I nodded, forcing a smile. Yeah. Always. He studied me for a moment, then set his beer down and shifted closer. You sure you're okay? You've been weird all night. I couldn't meet his eyes. Just tired. I mumbled, standing to escape the weight of his gaze. I should crash. He grabbed my wrist, his touch gentle but firm. Stay? He said, and there was something in his voice, something raw, something that made my heart stop. You don't have to go. I froze, his fingers warm against my skin, the air between us electric. For a moment, I thought he might say it's whatever it was we'd both been dancing around for years. But then he let go, and the moment shattered. Get some sleep, man, he said, standing and heading to his room. You know where the blankets are? I lay on his couch that night, staring at the ceiling, my chest aching with everything I hadn't said. The rain tapped against the windows, a steady rhythm that matched the chaos in my head. I didn't know how much longer I could keep this up, loving him in silence, calling him my brother when he was so much more. But as I drifted off, one thought burned brighter than the rest. I couldn't lose him. Not now. Not ever. The next morning, sunlight streamed through Elliot's mismatched curtains, painting the loft in shades of gold. I woke to the smell of coffee and the soft clatter of dishes in the kitchen. Elliot was already up, humming some indie tune, his blonde curls a mess as he flipped pancakes. Morning, sleepyhead, he called, flashing that grin that always made my chest ache. I mumbled a greeting, rubbing sleep from my eyes, trying to shake the weight of last night's almost confession. Sitting at his tiny kitchen table, I watched him move with easy grace, like he belonged here, like this was home. But it wasn't just his apartment, it was him. He was my home, and that truth was a double-edged sword. You look like you slept on a park bench, he teased, sliding a plate of pancakes in front of me. What's got you so wrecked? You, I wanted to say. Instead, I shrugged, drowning my pancakes in syrup. Just didn't sleep well. He sat across from me, his green eyes narrowing. Bullshit. You've been off for weeks. Caleb, talk to me. I froze, fork halfway to my mouth. He wasn't wrong, I'd been a mess. Dodging his questions, avoiding his touch, terrified that one wrong move would spill everything. It's nothing, I said, but my voice cracked, betraying me. Elliot leaned forward, his hand brushing mine on the table. Don't do that. Don't shut me out. His touch burned, and I pulled back, my chair scraping against the floor. I'm not. I snapped, sharper than I meant. His face fell, and guilt twisted in my gut. I need some air. Okay. I grabbed my jacket and bolted, the cool Seattle morning hitting me like a slap. The city buzzed around coffee shops opening, joggers weaving through the streets, but I felt untethered, like I was floating away from the only thing that mattered. I ended up at Volunteer Park, the same place we'd spent countless afternoons, sprawled on the grass, dreaming about futures we were too scared to chase. I sat on a bench, staring at the Space Needle in the distance, trying to untangle the mess in my head. Loving Elliot wasn't just about wanting him, it was about risking everything we'd built. He was my family, my safe harbor, The one person who'd never judged me, even when I came out to him at 17. He'd hug me then, fierce and unwavering, promising nothing would change. But this could change everything. My phone buzzed, and I glanced at the screen. A text from Elliot. Where'd you go? I'm worried. My throat tightened. I wanted to tell him I was sorry, that I was scared, that I loved him in a way I wasn't supposed to. But instead, I typed, just needed a walk. I'm fine. I wasn't fine. I was falling apart. And the only person who could put me back together was the one I was terrified to lose. When I got back to his apartment, Elliot was waiting, leaning against the counter, arms crossed. You can't keep running off like that, he said, his voice low, almost pleading. What's going on? Caleb. For real. I opened my mouth, then closed it. The word stuck. He stepped closer, his eyes searching mine, and I felt the air shift, heavy with unspoken truths. Is it about last night? He asked. About Ryan. No, I said too quickly, my heart pounding. It's not about him. Then what? He was close now. Too close. His breath warm against my cheek. You're my best friend. Caleb. My brother. If something's wrong, I need to know. That word again, brother. It was a wall between us, one I didn't know how to climb. I can't. I whispered, my voice breaking. I can't tell you. His hand cupped my face, gentle but firm, forcing me to meet his gaze. You can tell me anything, he said, and the sincerity in his voice nearly broke me. For a moment, I thought I could do it, spill everything. Consequences be damned. But then my phone buzzed again, shattering the moment. It was a notification from a dating app I'd barely used, a match I didn't care about. Elliot's eyes flicked to the screen, and his hand dropped. You're seeing someone? He asked, his voice tight. No, I said, shoving the phone in my pocket. It's nothing. He stepped back, his expression unreadable. You sure about that? The distance between us felt like a chasm. I wanted to reach for him, to pull him back, but fear held me frozen. I'm sure, I said, but the lie tasted bitter. The rest of the day was strained, our usual ease replaced by awkward silences. We went through the motions lunch at our favorite diner, a walk through Pike Place Market, but something had shifted. Every time our shoulders brushed, I felt it, the pull, the ache, the unspoken truth hanging between us. That night, Elliot suggested we go to a club, a rare move for him. You need to loosen up, he said, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. I agreed, hoping the noise and crowd would drown out my thoughts. The club was a blur of pulsing lights and thumping bass, bodies pressed close in the dark. Elliot danced with a freedom I envied, his laughter cutting through the chaos. But I couldn't shake the weight in my chest. Then I saw him, Ryan, from the bar, weaving through the crowd toward Elliot. My stomach dropped as they started talking, their heads close, Ryan's hand on Elliot's arm. I stood frozen, drink in hand, watching the person I loved slip further away. When Elliot glanced at me, his eyes held something I couldn't read: regret, maybe, or something deeper. I turned away, pushing through the crowd, needing air, needing space. Outside, the night was cool, the city alive with possibility and pain. I leaned against the wall, my breath ragged, and made a decision. I couldn't keep doing this, loving him in silence, watching him live a life I wasn't part of. I had to tell him, even if it meant losing him. The walk back to Elliot's apartment was silent, the city's hum the only sound between us. My resolve from the club felt fragile now, crumbling with every step. Elliot's hands were shoved in his pockets, his shoulders hunched, like he was carrying his own storm. I wanted to reach for him, to bridge the gap, but the words I needed felt too big, too dangerous. Inside, he tossed his keys on the counter and turned to me, his green eyes sharp. You're going to tell me what's going on, Caleb. No more bullshit. I swallowed hard. my heart hammering. This was a moment I'd been dodging for years. Okay, I said, my voice barely audible. But you have to promise to hear me out. All of it. He nodded, crossing his arms, his expression a mix of worry and frustration. I took a deep breath, the air heavy with the weight of what I was about to say. I'm in love with you, Elliot, I blurted, the words spilling out like a dam breaking. I've been in love with you for years, and it's killing me to keep pretending you're just my friend. My brother. You're everything to me. The silence that followed was deafening. Elliot's eyes widened, his lips parting, but no words came. My chest tightened, panic rising. Say something, I pleaded, my voice shaking. Please. He ran a hand through his curls, his gaze dropping to the floor. Caleb, I don't know what to say. His voice was soft, almost broken, and it cut deeper than I'd expected. You're my family. You've always been my family. I know, I said, stepping closer, desperate to make him understand. But it's more than that for me. It's always been more. Every time you touch me, every time you smile, it's like I can't breathe without you. He looked up, his eyes glistening, and for a moment, I thought he might feel it too. But then he shook his head, stepping back. I don't know if I can do this. Caleb, you're too important to me. What if we mess this up? The fear in his voice mirrored my own, but it didn't stop the ache in my chest. What if we don't? I asked, my voice raw. What if this is what we've both been too scared to admit? He turned away, his shoulders tense, and I felt the ground shift beneath me. I need time, he said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. I need to think. I nodded, even though every part of me wanted to beg him to stay, to talk, to not let this moment slip away. But I couldn't push him, not now, not when he looked so lost. Okay, I said, grabbing my jacket. I'll give you time. I left his apartment, the door clicking shut behind me like a gunshot. The night was cold, the streets empty, and I wandered aimlessly, my confession echoing in my head. I'd done it. I'd told him the truth, but instead of relief, I felt hollow, like I'd left a piece of myself behind. The next few days were torture. Elliot didn't call, didn't text, and I didn't push. I threw myself into work, bartending at a gritty Capitol Hill spot. But every quiet moment brought his face to mind, his smile, his laugh, the way his hand felt on mine. I started to wonder if I'd ruined everything, if I'd traded our friendship for a truth he couldn't handle. Then, on the fourth day, my phone lit up with his name. My heart leapt as I opened the text. Can we talk? My place. Tonight. No emojis. No warmth. Just those words. Stark and heavy. I spent the day on edge, replaying every moment, every word, trying to prepare for whatever came next. When I got to his apartment, Elliot was waiting on the couch, a beer in hand, his eyes red-rimmed like he hadn't slept. Hey, he said softly, gesturing for me to sit. I did, keeping my distance, my hands clenched in my lap. I've been thinking about what you said, he started, his voice low. And it's a lot. You're my best friend. Caleb. My brother. The idea of us being more, it scares the hell out of me. My heart sank, but I nodded, forcing myself to listen. I get it, I said, my voice thick. I didn't want to scare you. I couldn't keep it in anymore. He looked at me then, his eyes searching mine, and something shifted. I'm not saying I don't feel something, he admitted, his voice barely audible. I don't know what it means. I've never let myself think about you like that. My breath caught, hope flickering despite the fear. What are you saying, Elliot? I'm saying I'm confused, he said, his voice breaking. I'm saying I love you, but I don't know if it's the same way you love me. But I want to figure it out. I don't want to lose you. The air between us crackled, and I reached for his hand, my fingers trembling. He didn't pull away. "We can figure it out together," I said, my voice steady for the first time in days. "No pressure. Just us." He squeezed my hand, his thumb brushing my knuckles. And for the first time, I let myself believe we might have a chance. The weeks that followed were a delicate dance, each step cautious, each moment charged with possibility. Elliot and I didn't talk about the confession again. Not directly, but something had shifted. Our touches lingered, a hand on the shoulder, a brush of fingers, and our silences held a new kind of weight, heavy with unspoken questions. We fell back into our routines, but they felt different now. Coffee runs turned into long talks about nothing and everything, our knees brushing under diner tables. Movie nights were charged, the space between us on the couch shrinking until our shoulders touched, neither of us pulling away. I caught him watching me sometimes, his green eyes soft, searching, like he was trying to see me in a new light. One night, at a quiet park near his apartment, we sat on a bench under a sky streaked with pink and gold. The air was crisp, the city humming faintly in the distance. Elliot leaned back, his hands behind his head, staring at the clouds. "You ever think about what we'd be like?" he asked, his voice casual but laced with something deeper. I swallowed, my heart racing. "Like what?" He turned to me, his eyes locking onto mine. "Like, together. Not just as friends." My breath hitched, and I nodded, afraid to speak, afraid to break the moment. He reached for my hand, his fingers intertwining with mine, and the world seemed to still. "I've been thinking about it," he said softly. "About you. About us." I squeezed his hand, my voice barely a whisper. "And?" He smiled, a small, nervous thing that made my chest ache. "And I think I want to try?" The words hit like a wave, washing away the fear I'd carried for so long. I leaned closer, my forehead resting against his, our breaths mingling in the cool air. "You sure?" I asked, needing to know he meant it. "I'm sure," he said, and then he kissed me. It was soft at first, tentative, like we were both afraid to break something fragile. But then he deepened it, his hand cupping my face, and I melted into him, years of longing pouring into that single moment. When we pulled back, breathless, his eyes were bright, his smile wide. "Okay," he said, laughing softly. "That was, wow." I laughed too, the sound shaky but real. "Yeah, wow." From that night on, we were something new, something more. We didn't put a label on it. Didn't need to. We were Caleb and Elliot. Same as always. But now our touches held intent. Our glances carried promises. It wasn't perfect. There were moments of doubt. Moments when the weight of our history made us hesitate. But every time, we found our way back to each other. Then Ryan reappeared. He showed up at the bar where I worked, his leather jacket and sly grin unchanged. "Heard you and Elliot are a thing now," he said, leaning against the counter, his tone casual but sharp. I tensed, wiping down the bar to avoid his gaze. "Yeah, we are." He smirked, swirling his drink. "Good luck with that. Elliot's not exactly the settling down type." The word stung, planting a seed of doubt I couldn't shake. Elliot had always been a free spirit, charming everyone, never tied down. What if Ryan was right? What if this was just a phase for him? A curiosity he'd outgrow? That night, I brought it up, my voice tight as we lay on his couch, tangled together. "You ever think about what happens if this doesn't work?" I asked, my head on his chest. He stiffened, his fingers pausing in my hair. "Why would you say that?" I sat up, meeting his eyes. I don't want to lose you, Elliot. Not as my friend. Not as this." He pulled me back down, his arms tight around me. "You're not going to lose me," he said fiercely. "I'm in this, Caleb. All the way." I wanted to believe him, But Ryan's words lingered, a shadow I couldn't shake. The next day, I saw them together at a coffee shop, laughing like old friends, and my heart twisted. I didn't confront him not yet, but the doubt grew. A crack in the foundation we'd just started to build. The crack widened over the next week, doubt gnawing at me every time Elliot's phone buzzed with a text from Ryan. I tried to ignore it, to focus on the moments we share, the late-night talks, the stolen kisses, the way he looked at me like I was the only one in the room. But the fear was relentless, whispering that I wasn't enough, that I'd always be the brother, never the lover. It came to a head at a party in Fremont, a crowded loft filled with music and laughter. Elliot was across the room, talking to Ryan, their heads close, his hand on Ryan's shoulder. I watched from the corner, my drink forgotten, my chest tight. When Elliot caught my eye, he smiled, but it didn't reach me. I slipped outside, needing air, needing to escape the noise in my head. He found me on the fire escape, the city sprawling below us. "What's wrong?" he asked, his voice soft but urgent. "You've been off all night." I turned to him, the words spilling out before I could stop them. "Are you still into me, Elliot? Or is this just temporary?" His eyes widened, hurt flashing across his face. "What? Caleb, where's this coming from?" "Ryan," I said, my voice breaking. "You're always with him, laughing, touching. I see the way he looks at you. And I'm scared. Okay. Scared that I'm not enough, that you'll realize you want someone else." He stepped closer, his hands framing my face. "Caleb, listen to me. Ryan's a friend. That's it. You're the one I want. You're the one I've always wanted, even when I was too scared to admit it." I searched his eyes, looking for a lie, but all I saw was truth. "Then why didn't you tell me sooner?" I asked, my voice raw. "Why did it take me breaking down for you to see me?" He swallowed hard, his thumbs brushing my cheeks. "Because I was scared too. You're my family, Caleb." The idea of messing that up, it terrified me. But I'm not scared anymore. I love you, not just as my brother, but as everything. The words hit like a lifeline, pulling me back from the edge. I kissed him, desperate and fierce, pouring every fear, every hope into it. He kissed me back, his arms wrapping around me, holding me like he'd never let go. We stood there for a long time, the city alive below us, our breaths mingling in the cool night air. When we finally pulled back, he rested his forehead against mine, his smile soft. "We're going to be okay," he said. "You and me." And for the first time, I believed him. The months that followed weren't perfect. There were fights, doubts, moments when our past as brothers clashed with our present as lovers. But we faced them together, learning to navigate this new us. Ryan faded into the background, his presence no longer a threat, just a reminder of what we'd overcome. One evening, as we sat on that same park bench where we'd first kissed, Elliot pulled out a small stone, the words "love finds a way" carved into it. "Found this at a market," he said, handing it to me. "Made me think of us." I turned it over in my hands, my throat tight. "It's perfect," I said, and it was. Not just the stone, but us, messy, complicated, beautiful. We weren't just brothers anymore, not just lovers. We were both. And somehow, that was enough. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of fire, I leaned into him, his arm around my shoulders, his warmth my anchor. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but we'd walk it together, hand in hand, hearts open, ready for whatever came next.